So we begin the 65th session of understanding Vyavasthit, and as we begin this, let us appreciate the presence of the Paramatma, the Absolute Self, Bhagavan, Lord, whatever you want to call him, within each one of us. And in that presence, let us begin the satsang. Okay? All right. So, Evangelina, Trimantra Evangelina.
Ya comenzó la sesión número 65 de Vyavasthit y lo vamos a hacer apreciando el Paramatma en cada uno, en el ser de cada uno de todos aquí, en esta presencia. Y comenzamos el satsang cantando el trimantra. Evangelina. Namo Vigragai, Namo Arihantanam, Namo Siddhana, Namo Ayareyana, Namo Vasayana, Namo Lohisavasakam, Esto Panchanamukaro, Dhammapada-phanamasti, Mangalam Vasavesi, Paramam Savai Mangalam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Jai Satchidanand. Namo Vigrahaya. Namo Arihantanam. Namo Dana. Namo Ayareyana. Namo Vasayana. Namo Lohisavasakam. Navapavapanasti, Mangalanam Tasaveti, Adamam Kavai Mangalam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Satchidanand. Namo Vigrahaya. Namo Arihantanam. Namo Siddhana. Namo Ayareyana. Namo Vasayana. Namo Esto Panchanamukaro, Davapavapanam, Nangalanam Paramam Savai Mangalam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Jai Satchidanand. Jai Satchidanand. Jai Satchidanand. Jai Satchidanand.
Jai
Jai
Sachidanand.
Satchidanand.
Vishuddhatma Bhagavan. Yes, Jai Sachidanand. Okay. All right. So this 65th session begins with Let me share the screen. It's a new Aptasutra, and Aptasutra number 2701. All right, so do you see this here, Patricia?
Perfect, yes, yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Vamos a comenzar la sesión 65 con el Aptasutra 2701.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Aptasutra number 2701. Vyavasthit has to be kept in laksha, which is the attentive awareness as the S capital self. You should not take its support wrongfully. When all the efforts are completed and the work gets done, if it turns out wrong, in other words, the result turns out not as you expected it to be, then that is when you should say it is Vyavasthit. Aptasutra 2701.
Vyavasthit tiene que mantenerse en Laksh, que es la conciencia atenta como el ser en mayúscula, ser. No debes tomar su apoyo erróneamente. Cuando todos los esfuerzos se completan y el trabajo se realiza, si el resultado resulta equivocado, es cuando debes decir es Vyavasthit.
Questioner. So then Vyavasthit is an inadequate word because it is being used because it is being misused in many places.
Pregunta, así que entonces Vyavasthit es una palabra inadecuada porque está siendo mal utilizado en muchos lugares.
Dadashri says, yes, it is considered an inadequate or a weak. Inadequate means weak word, not a strong word, if it is being misused. However, there is nothing compared to it like it if it is used properly. Moreover, the fundamental meaning of Vyavasthit is something different.
Dadashri dice, si se considera una palabra inadecuada, en realidad es débil en lugar de inadecuada. Si se usa mal, sin embargo, no hay nada parecido si se usa correctamente. Además, el significado fundamental de Vyavasthit es algo diferente.
If it is close, if a close relative were sick, and if you were to hear a Brahmin say, his stars are not favorable, it seems he will not last long. And yet you remember what Dada has said about Vyavasthit, that whatever is in Vyavasthit will happen. So then you will stop his treatments and your efforts will decrease. When you misuse Vyavasthit, then all your enthusiasm in treating him will go away, and you will even stop sitting at his bedside at night. That is considered a grave mistake. You, in fact, have to continue all his medicines to the very end with the belief that he is going to live. If you have fear, if fear keeps arising within, then only say, whatever is in Vyavasthit, that will happen. But there is no need to have fear. When can you say that it is Vyavasthit? When he dies, when he dies. Thereafter, you should say that it is Vyavasthit. Upon his death, you should say it is Vyavasthit. If a question arises, who did this? Then say Vyavasthit did.
Si un paciente cercano estuviera enfermo y se escuchara a un brahman decir, sus estrellas no son favorables, parece que no durará mucho. Y sin embargo recuerdas lo que Dada ha dicho sobre el Vyavasthit, que lo que esté en el Vyavasthit sucederá. Así que entonces dejarás de darle sus tratamientos, tus esfuerzos disminuyen. Cuando usas mal Vyavasthit, entonces todo su entusiasmo en el tratamiento de él, todo tu entusiasmo en el tratamiento de él desaparecerá. Incluso dejarás de sentarte junto a su cama por la noche. Eso se considera un grave error. De hecho, tienes que continuar con todas sus medicinas hasta el final, con la creencia de que va a vivir. Si tienes miedo, si el miedo sigue surgiendo en tu interior, entonces di, lo que esté en Vyavasthit, eso sucederá. Pero no hay necesidad de tener miedo cuando puedes decir que es Vyavasthit. Cuando muere, entonces debe decir que es Vyavasthit. Tras su muerte, debes decir que es Vyavasthit. Si surge la pregunta, ¿quién hizo esto? Entonces di, Vyavasthit lo hizo.
For anything that has happened in the past, you can indeed say that it is Vyavasthit. Whereas for what is yet to happen, do not say it is Vyavasthit. Say it after it has happened. And if you have fear, then decide it is certainly Vyavasthit, but I should remain attentively careful. I have no reason to remain fearful or to be afraid. I simply want to be attentively careful. This is all that needs to be understood because this approach is scientific. An approach where speculations are made will not do. It has to be scientific. It should be such that it never falters. If the man dies, that was meant to happen, and that is what happened. Now there is no fault of yours in that. If he died at the hands of a doctor, it is not the doctor's fault either. It is just that people accuse them and file claims against them. Is this the way to behave? These doctors, they are all nimitz, apparent doers, and evidence in the process only.
Para cualquier cosa que haya sucedido en el pasado, puedes decir que es Vyavasthit. En cambio, para lo que aún está por suceder, no digas que es Vyavasthit. Dilo después de que haya sucedido. Si tienes miedo, entonces decide. Ciertamente es Vyavasthit, pero debo permanecer atento y cuidadoso. No tengo ninguna razón para seguir teniendo miedo. Simplemente quiero ser atentamente cuidadosa. Eso es todo lo que hay que entender. Porque el enfoque es científico. Un enfoque en el que se hagan especulaciones no servirá. Tiene que ser científico. Tiene que ser tal que nunca vacile. Si el hombre muere, eso es lo que tenía que pasar. Y eso es lo que pasó. Ahora no hay ninguna culpa tuya en eso. Si murió en las manos de un médico, tampoco es culpa del médico. Lo que ocurre es que la gente los acusa y presenta demandas contra ellos. ¿Es esta la manera de comportarse? todos son nimis, aparentes hacedores.
Mm-hmm. Very good. So this is a very important scientific approach, not as Dada says, a speculative approach to life. You see, this understanding of Vyavasthit will make us rise higher, further higher in in the self. You see, in the experience of the self. This approach has to be kept in mind also. You see, in the laksh. You see, in laksh, not okay in laksh. Mm-hmm.
Remind me, please, Laksh is, I don't have the page.
Oh, sorry. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Laksh means
Okay, no, Laksh, yes. All right, so Laksh, okay. Uh, Laksh is defined, Laksh means to apply the new awareness, you see, application of the new awareness, not attentive awareness, okay? Applied awareness. You see, okay, applied awareness is
thank
Laksh.
you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Este es un entendimiento científico de la vida y Vyavasthit nos hace elevar más, aún más en la experiencia del ser y es permanecer Laksh y es aplicar este nuevo conocimiento.
Yeah, it is the awareness of the eternal, you see. Eu so amapura, I am eternal, everything else is temporary, and that awareness, you see, that awareness has to be maintained. So, in other words, that is the highest awareness, you see, and that has to be kept. That is your laksh, you see. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Esto es mantener la conciencia de lo eterno. Yo soy eterno y todo lo demás es temporal. Y esa es la conciencia más elevada para mantenernos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Marcella. You see, highest awareness is laksh, you see. And this is laksh, this, yes, you and I are Amapura, and we say, Yevaso Amapura, Veso Amapura, but that's not something that you can say anymore. That is a continuous underlying awareness, you see. Uh, Continuous underlying awareness. Before her marriage, a young girl has the awareness that I am single, I am a single lady, I am a single uh, girl, and then after she gets married in the church, you see, and a lot of people have enjoyed that wedding. Um, the awareness shifts, you see. The awareness shifts, and now her awareness is I am married, I got married in front of the Lord, you see. So new awareness, right?
Yes. Eh, la más elevada conciencia es Lakshta, y decir yo soy alma pura. pero tenemos que estar en la continua conciencia de esto. Por ejemplo, una joven mujer antes de casarse tiene la conciencia, el conocimiento de que es una joven y que es soltera. Luego se casa en el templo y todas las personas disfrutan de este casamiento. Entonces, cuando la fiesta termine, todos se van, viene la nueva conciencia de que ella eh, se casó, se casó frente al Lord.
Mhm. Now, this married young woman, yeah, for a day or two, she will say, I'm married, I'm married. She calls her friends and says, I'm married, I've got a beautiful husband, wonderful gentleman, etc., etc. But then she doesn't, afterwards, if she keeps on saying, I'm married, it will sound stupid. It is, everybody understands, and more than everybody else, she herself knows now inside that she is married, right? She doesn't have to say, I am married, I am married. She doesn't have to say that, does it? Does she have to say that?
No. Esta joven que se casó, que ahora tiene esta conciencia de que está casada, le dice a todo el mundo, me casé, tengo un marido amoroso, estoy casada, y lo repite, y lo repite, y no tiene que repetir, y llega un momento donde ya no lo repite más porque ya tiene la conciencia de que es una mujer casada, que se
Mm.
casó.
Yeah, so in the same way, eu soamapura, soyamapura, yeah, remains. You see, we go, that other marriage in the church or in the temple or in the synagogue was a relative marriage, and in the Gnanvidhi, the our Dadashri got us married to our Lord within. We got married to our Lord. Ev Samapura, Soyamapura. So now, Soyamapura is the new eternal awareness. You see, the new awareness. You see.
Yes. Eh, yo permanezco, yo soy alma pura, permanece. Como cualquier pareja que se case en un templo, en una sinagoga, este, o, o iglesia, de esta misma forma, en el Gnani Dada nos casó con el Lord. Entonces ahora el yo soy algo más pura es el nuevo conocimiento, conciencia.
Married, married to the eternal, entering the eternal state. That is the new awareness, and the application of that awareness is Laksh. You see, yes, the awareness is there, but now how will you apply it? You see, then that is called Laksh. You see.
Yes. Dada nos casa, ¿no? Como lo remarca con, con con el eterno estado y la aplicación de la conciencia. Y cómo lo aplicamos, eso es Laksh.
Yeah, I use the word application, but if you don't have to apply it, if yes, initially you have to apply it, but later on, just being who you are will automatically be enough. You see, in other words, your light as the self is enough. Soyamapura. And this in front of me that is happening is Vyavasthit. You see, is Vyavasthit. Is Vyavasthit.
En realidad, usa la palabra aplicación de esta nueva conciencia, pero después con el tiempo surge naturalmente el estado del alma pura. Y todo lo que sucede frente a mí es Vyavasthit.
Yeah, there are two more examples. This Laksh is so important. Let me give you one more example. I have shared that with you before, but I can share that again with you. And that is, uh, like a young mother. She is now this newly married mother. Of course, now she gets pregnant, and then she gets a little baby, and the little one is now 2 years old. You see, and the 2 year old and she, the husband goes to work, but she and her 2 year old are in the home, you see, in the apartment. And the 2 year old is very active, climbing up on everything, wanting to know and, wanting to find out about all the things, you see.
Hay un nuevo ejemplo para esto, ¿no? Porque Lax es muy, muy importante. Y volvamos a esta joven que se casó. Se casó, queda embarazada y tiene un niño, y bueno, llega a los 2 años de edad su hijo y tiene mucha energía, es muy inquieto, se quiere trepar a todos lados, pregunta, quiere saber todo. Y el marido va a trabajar y ya está en su casa con su hijo, con
Mm-hmm.
su niño.
Mm-hmm. Now, but mother has to cook. So while she's cooking in the kitchen, you see, she lets him play around. But even when he's playing in the apartment, even while she's cooking, her laksh, her her laksh is constantly there on him. You see, she doesn't have to see him. She knows exactly where he is and what she is doing. If there is a sound of the door opening, the front door opening or something, you see, or if the door has been left open and but it's not been locked, and so if the little one opens the door, she will immediately run out there and bring him in, you see. No, you're not going out, you see. So that is laksh, that where even though it you see, you understand laksh, it's her awareness is continuously being applied, on the little one.
Yes. Por ejemplo, la mamá está cocinando y lo deja al niño que juegue por la casa. Pero a pesar de que está cocinando, ella sabe, tiene conciencia de su hijo qué es lo que está haciendo. Y si, por ejemplo, siente un ruido, inmediatamente lo va a ver, porque la puerta, por ejemplo, no estaba cerrada con llave y el niño va y la abre. Entonces siempre sabe dónde está, siempre tiene el conocimiento de dónde está su hijo y eso es Laksh.
Mhm. And the third example I will give you is, you and I are all very familiar with it. We have been to the funeral homes, to say goodbye and pay our respects to our loved ones, maybe a friend or a family member. We have been there, and the night before you may be parting with him, talking to him. Next morning, he's gone, you see, or she's gone. And there is this awareness, this laksh of the transient and the temporary nature of everything in this world, you see. Nothing comes, nothing goes with the one who was here present on this world with you, and now he's gone. All his belongings and loved ones are left here, you see. And that is laksh too, is it not? There. you know, the mind, speech, and body are physical and temporary. I am eternal. You see, I am eternal.
No fuimos, por ejemplo, a funerales a presentar nuestros respetos cuando a la familia de algún familiar o amigo. Y la noche anterior por ahí probablemente hayamos estado con esta persona o hayamos hablado. Y al día siguiente esta persona partió, se fue, se murió. Y Laksh es la conciencia de que todo es temporal en este mundo.
Mm.
La mente, el cuerpo, el habla es temporal y yo soy eterno.
Mm-hmm. That's and that Laksh is now addressed by Dada in this Laksh here. You see, that Laksh is now addressed here. Keep Vyavasthit in Laksh. So this is the new awareness that Vyavasthit is the doer and there is no other doer. There is no one else doing anything, you see. Keep that in awareness. Vyavasthit is the doer. See? Yes.
Acá Dada nos muestra dónde está, ¿no? Mantener el Laksh, de que Vyavasthit es el hacedor y que no hay otro hacedor, solo Vyavasthit.
Just like the mother, the young mother has in her Laksh the little boy who is very playful, you see. You know, we have to keep Vyavasthit in our Laksh, you see. So you know, nothing else comes in. This is so deep. This is such a deep but present awareness. In all matters of life that arise in front of us, in all happenings, in all events, you see, Vyavasthit. You keep that laksh, you see, and then perfect freedom is attained, perfect moksha is attained. This is magnificent agna of Dada. This is magnificent agna of Dada, you see.
Yes. La madre, por ejemplo, con su hijo juguetón, todo el tiempo está moviéndose y ella mantiene Vyavasthit en Laksh. Y no hay nada más profundo de conciencia en esto. En todo evento, Vyavasthit, en todo evento, Vyavasthit, y mantén Laksh. Y luego, esto te da la perfecta libertad, te da la perfecta libertad, moksha, es el agna de Dada.
Then, if this is kept in Laksh, then no other evidence will distract you. You see, the evidence of the intellect will not distract you. You see, even the evidence of the intellect leaves when this is kept in your awareness that it is Vyavasthit. It is Vyavasthit.
Laksh es la conciencia atenta como el ser, ¿no? Y y así ninguna evidencia te podrá distraer. Y cuando y cuando algo sucede, puedes ver Vyavasthit.
Mhm, mhm. You will, all your fights with this world or anyone will come to an end. All conflicts will come to an end with this. When this knowledge of Vyavasthit is kept in Laksh, yes, you and I have been given this knowledge and we read about it so much, but it doesn't remain in the Laksh. Something else comes, takes over, you see. And then you say, oh, no, 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 yes. Then later on, of course, you say it is Vyavasthit, you see.
Yes. Por ejemplo, todas las peleas que surgen en este mundo van a terminar cuando esté esta conciencia del Aksh instalada. Pero a veces viene algo y te absorbe, pero luego te das cuenta de que esto es Vyavasthit.
This Laksh is the final, eternal, final awareness of the eternal one and the eternal state. You see, the eternal one with an O capital and the eternal state as this is who I am and this is where I am. This is the Laksh, you see. If it is missed, then uh, then you come down a little bit and then you start taking its use through the intellect and the ego. You say, oh, it's Vyavasthit, don't worry about it, like that. That's when you say, oh, it's Vyavasthit, don't worry about it.
Yes. Este Laksh la conciencia eterna final. Es el del estado y del ser. Es quién soy y dónde estoy. Podemos perder esta conciencia por algún momento y cuando se pierde es como que se desciende, pero luego nos damos cuenta que todo esto está bajo el estado del ego y del intelecto
Mm.
y entonces no te pierdes.
The Dadashri says when all efforts and the word effort is very interesting. All effort is the energy of the relative, you see. Effort, you make an effort, your friend makes an effort, somebody else does something, somebody else does something. This is all their energy of the relative, you see. They are all trying to do something together, you see. Uh, they have a plan to do something, maybe, help in a wedding or help in an event, and everybody is trying to do something. And you see, they when they all these efforts complete, when they all efforts are completed, or then it is then the work happens, you see. Then 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 whatever was planned happens, you see. Well, so let the evidences finish, otherwise we do not do not do not say it is Vyavasthit before the evidences finish. This is very important sutra, The other Sri is saying, let all the efforts come to a completion and then just see what happens, you see. Then the work happens, you see. If one evidence is missing, it doesn't, It's still incomplete.
Yes. Em, Acá habla cuando todo esfuerzo, y cuando habla de esfuerzo se refiere a lo relativo, ¿no? Es la energía del relativo. Entonces, cuando el esfuerzo que hago yo, amigos o familia, por ejemplo, todos juntos están tratando de hacer algo, de ayudar en una boda o ayudar en un evento. Entonces, cuando todos estos esfuerzos del relativo terminan, sucede lo planeado. Entonces, Dada dice que permite que las evidencias terminen. No digas que es Vyavasthit antes que todas las evidencias surjan.
Mm-hmm.
Dada dice, y luego que las evidencias ocurran, entonces luego ve qué es lo que sucede. Y el trabajo sucede. Si falta una evidencia, el trabajo todavía no terminó, no puede suceder.
Mm-hmm. And this, this is very powerful. This requires reflection. This what is in here. When all the efforts are completed, we do not know what are the evidences that are coming in. You see, you know, we do not know. We have, you and I, as human beings, have limited vision. Our ability to perceive through the five senses is limited, you see, and it is severely limited by a very active intellect, you see. So, even if we do not have the Gnan, you say, even if we were not enlightened, there are some human beings who are more, who can see more, who who seem to see more, who can understand more, and so they seem to have more patience. You see, but you see, it's not a question of more patience. In other words, you become impatient when the intellect is very active, and so as the intellect recedes and goes into the back room, then you're able to see more and more evidences that are coming in. You see. Hmm?
Yes. La visión la visión que nosotros, todo esto que estamos viendo, que Dada nos está mostrando, tiene que ver, requiere de mucho entendimiento y sí, de entendimiento, ¿no? Como de verlo. Porque nosotros, los seres humanos, tenemos una visión limitada por los cinco sentidos y el intelecto que es muy activo. Eh, y hay personas que aunque no tengan el Nambiji, algunos ven más o pueden entender más y parece que tienen una visión mayor. Eh, y cuando tenemos la visión limitada porque tenemos el intelecto muy activo, nos volvemos impacientes. Y en realidad lo que hay que hacer es retirarse para dejar que las evidencias sucedan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I say, you know, uh, you, we are all aware of wise people, wisdom, you see, whether it is a old grandmother or an old gentleman, who has been seen a lot of life, you see. He doesn't need to be enlightened, he doesn't need to have the Gnanviti, but they seem to have more patience. You see, they seem to, whereas the young people will get disturbed. The old grandmother or the old man in the house, he just he has this intuitive sense of taking it easy, and the ants, and we all say, there's a saying which says, "Easy does it, easy does it." Slow and steady, and the results come better as opposed to, you want it now and you want things to happen soon, you see. um and and the other Sri is giving more details about even not visible evidences but subtle evidences, you see, invisible evidences.
Yes. Este, hay personas que son sabias, ¿no? Son personas adultas, abuelos, abuelas, que han vivido la vida observando y tal vez no hayan recibido el Nanvidi, pero tienen como una mayor paciencia. Y, por ejemplo, si está la familia reunida, los jóvenes, frente a un evento, a un suceso, enseguida es como que se van a molestar. Pero ellos mantienen la calma y pueden ver que lo hacen de forma más fácil, más tranquilos. Entonces, de esa forma se resuelve más rápido. Y da más detalles sobre esto, y da detalles que son sutiles, invisibles, evidencias.
You know, Niruma was magnificent in this vision, you see. Um, just imagine a lady like Niruma. Just visualize, you can't imagine, but just visualize her with her sari, an Indian lady in a sari coming in to America, alone, all alone, getting down at an airport. Very few people to help her after Dada was gone, you see. Um, but she was not rushing, she carried within her all this knowledge of Akram Vignan and um, she wasn't rushing. I want to get this done and get this done. She just gently, giving full energy to the simple efforts of her hosts, wherever she went, whether that man knew a few people, or something, little bit, in a gentle way, all, and then waiting for the results, waiting for the all the subtle evidences to come together, you see. Can you imagine that? Can you visualize those days in the early 90s, in the early 90s, Niruma in America, Hmm?
Yes, I even thought in India.
Yeah, in
In
India
India,
there were people to help her. You see, and there are, in India there is a lot of manpower, but yes, but in America, when she does, she's at the mercy of her hosts, people who know. If I come to Argentina, for instance, I I am at the mercy, I'm at the pleasure of people who invite me to their homes or list, otherwise I'm all alone. You see what I mean?
yes, yes, yes,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
yes, clear. Por ejemplo, imaginen a Niruma, ¿no? Niruma era excelente, excelente en su visión. Y traten de visualizar a Niruma, una mujer que venía en sari, que bajaba en el aeropuerto en América, que había muy poca gente para apoyarla. Ya Dada había partido, ¿no? Y ella no se apuraba, no tenía tensión sobre qué quería dar esta ciencia. Ella iba eh, a las casas de las personas que la invitaban y ella gentilmente daba toda su completa energía en esa casa y en esas personas que iban allí a escuchar. Ella esperaba los resultados, esperaba que vinieran las sutiles evidencias, Tienen todo esto en los años 90, ¿no?
Yeah.
Y ella estaba a merced de que las personas la invitaran. Si no, estaba sola,
Yeah, she is, you know.
pero no apuraba.
So this, um, it's it's to it's to step back. You see, it's to stand back and see the evidences. You see, you do not know what evidences are cooking. You see, invisible until they arise, until they're ready to give the results. We only, and the intellect only can see the visible evidences. The intellect has a hard time to see anything invisible, you see. Mm.
Yes.
Mm.
Eh, Esto es muy importante poderse como parar y dar un paso atrás para poder ver las evidencias y dónde están y dónde se están cocinando estas evidencias, dónde están preparándose. Y no las podemos ver hasta que surgen, porque el intelecto solo ve lo visible, no puede ver lo invisible.
Mhm. Mhm. And uh, and the more and if you do not have a weapon, if you do not have something to replace the intellect, which just keeps on bombarding you. Oh, what will happen? What's happening? Why is he not here? Why is she not here? She promised she will be there at the airport to receive me, but now nobody's here, etc., etc. The more the intellect is active, the more, the more it gets spoiled, you see. You have to have something else. You have to have something else to replace this, the interfering intellect. And there are two things there, you see.
Yes. Por ejemplo, Niruma cuando llegaba al aeropuerto no tenía el intelecto que la bombardeaba con preguntas de quién va a venir y cuándo van a venir y me van a dejar sola. Porque si esto sucede, el intelecto bombardea, más se va a arruinar, más va a tardar en que suceda. Pero hay que tener algo más, ¿no? Y ahora lo voy a explicar, dos
Mhm,
cosas más.
mhm, mhm. Uh, and so, what are those two things? One, of course, is Vidhi, Vidhi, you see, little things. Not Vidhis means these are inner special spiritual prayers. Whether or not you are enlightened, Agnan Vidhi or not, there are some you can start with simple prayers to distract the intellect, the mind, you say that is bothering you, or you have this laksh of the self, you see, this laksh and the light of the self, laksh and light of the self. The experience, with the experience of the self, the light and the laksh begins, you see. With the experience of the self, the light and the laksh. Laksh, I know it's a Gujarati word, but you must understand this laksh. There is, if you don't understand laksh, you're gone, you see. You will confuse it with relative laksh, you see. Relative
Yes,
applied awareness, you see.
yes. Bueno, el primer paso para que el intelecto no bombardee es un Didi. Y puede ser que no tengan en la Didi las personas, pero por ahí comenzar con oraciones, pequeñas oraciones, que lo que hacen es distraer el intelecto. Entonces así puedes estar en la luz, en la luz y tener y poder aplicar la conciencia, el laksh. Si no tienes laksh, vas a estar en el esfuerzo de lo relativo.
You know, our Dada when he was young, and this is before his Gnan, before 1958, when he was young, in his 20s and 30s. He relates an incident where he went to the bus station, you see, to take a bus to another town. And he arrived early because he didn't want to miss the bus, you see. So he arrived about half an hour early. And because he was early, Dada was a fan of snacks and, you know, this fried snacks and tea. So he says, "Oh, okay, let me go inside the bus station stall, you know, cafe, and have the snacks." It was not. So he went in there and enjoyed his snack. And when he came out, the bus was gone. Okay.
Dada antes de tener su Nandidi, él estaba tenía alrededor de 20, 30 años, tenía que tomar un micro para ir a algún lado y llega media hora antes porque era importante para él el viaje, tomar el micro. Pero resulta que le gustaban mucho los snacks, ¿no? Unos snacks fritos, entonces entra a un lugar a comerlos, mientras que espera la salida del micro. Cuando sale, el micro ya se había ido.
Yeah, and so then, of course, then the Dadashi says, he relates later on. He says, in those days I did not have Gnan, so and I hated waiting. That's one thing, he hated to do in life. He says, I hated this waiting business. So I would start repeating again, oh Lord, what shall I do? I am full of faults. I am full of faults. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? I am full of faults. You see, like that. He would sing a famous line of Srimad Raj Chandra.
Yes. Dada decía, si había algo que no le gustaba a Dada era esperar, odiaba esperar, ¿no? Entonces, ¿qué hacía? Él cantaba una oración que dice, oh Lord, estoy lleno de faltas, oh Lord, estoy lleno de faltas. Y esto era lo que él recitaba. Esta es una frase que está en el Shimandar Shantra.
Not the Lord, not Simandar Swami, just Lord. He was not.
Perdón.
He did not have the connection with Simandar Swami's. His connection with Simandar Swami happened after his awakening. You see. But
Él no tenía la conexión todavía con Shimandar Swami Tumo cuando era en 1958.
but yeah, he did not have the exact connection with before his awakening, because he just say, oh my Lord, just like you and I would say, oh my God, the Lord, what will I? Anyway, so this was before his awakening. So this is the point. This thing here that I am sharing with you about, let all evidences finish, and then see what happens, you see. And that is a very powerful understanding. When all the efforts are completed, and these efforts are not just visible efforts, these efforts in here are also invisible things, activity in the relative of different limits, you see, entities. You see. Then the work gets done.
Yes. Este es el punto, ¿no? Dada todavía no había recibido el NAN, ¿no? Y el punto es que poder ver que todas las evidencias terminan, ver, hay evidencias que son visibles y hay evidencias que son invisibles, y también los diferentes ninis. Hasta que todo esto no suceda, no se puede decir nada.
Mm-hmm. This is very much applicable for a person who is sick in the hospital. He is not the only one who is sick. There are hundreds and hundreds of patients, you see, and the average doctor has to see so many patients, one after the other, you see, when he visits the sick ones, you see. Now you can imagine countless visible evidences, of the nurse taking all the vital signs and the blood test results and x-ray results, you see. And then there are so many invisible evidences, you see, you know. And, sitting as a family member outside, you see, you start wondering what's happening, what's the doctor doing, how come he is not, you know, you you don't know what are the evidences that are going on, you see.
Yes. Por ejemplo, hay una persona que está internada en el hospital, ¿no? Que está enferma. Pero él no es el único que está enfermo, internado en el hospital. Hay cientos de personas que están internadas. Y mientras que estas personas están internadas, hay doctores que están haciendo estudios, hay enfermeras que toman muestras de sangre, que hacen montones de cosas para obtener sus estudios, los resultados de los estudios. Están sucediendo un montón de cosas que la familia, porque está sentada afuera, no puede ver. Y cuando aparece alguien dice, bueno, ¿qué es lo que está sucediendo? ¿Qué es lo que dice el doctor? ¿Por qué el doctor no viene? Ellos no tienen idea de que las evidencias están sucediendo.
You see, against that, is this Brahmin, you see, and these are all these astrologers, they don't look, the sun, especially in India, they kind of sense to, oh, his stars are not favorable. What has the stars got to do with the brilliance of the doctor and the love and care of the nurses, etc. So this, you know, this astrology business is bad, you see. And it's very prevalent in India, you see, in people where there are so many astrologers. Mm.
Mm. Acá los brahmines dicen que por lo general son astrólogos, dice las estrellas no están a su favor. Y en realidad no es bueno decir eso. Y en India se cree mucho en la astrología.
Yeah. Shuddhatma Bhagwan. So let us take a coffee, tea, mate break, 10 minutes, and then we come back, huh?
Ok, vamos a tomar 5 o 10 minutos, 10 minutos de recreo
Yeah.
y volvemos.
And Jai Sachidan. Thank you. Huh? Thank you.
Jai Sachidanand.
Jai
Thank you,
Sachidanand
Marcella.
Jai
Brothers.
Sachidanand.
Jai Sachidanand, yeah,
Jai
and
Sachidanand.
Damian, and everyone else here. Huh? Jai
Jai
Sachidanand.
Sachidanand.
Gonzalo and here, everyone. Silvina, Gavi, Angelique, okay. Olga, yeah, right. Okay, good.
No escucho.
Estamos en el break, Olga. Jai Sachidanan, Olga, estamos en el break. Jai Sachidanan, Olga, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, Jai Sachidana, bien. ¿Y tú cómo estás?
Bien, bien. ¿Hace frío por ahí?
Sí, está frío. Yo estoy cocinando y bueno, con el calor de la estufa me siento mejor, pero sí está fresquito. ¿Y tú cómo
Bueno.
estás?
Bien, bien. La verdad que
Oye,
bien. Sí, sí, estoy bien, que no nos podemos
te
quejar.
escucho. Ya va. Que es que tenía los aparatitos, ya va. Ahora,
Que estoy bien, que no nos podemos quejar. Estamos escuchando a Shuddha, que la semana pasada lo echamos de menos.
sí, pero no sé qué ocurre que no lo escucho.
Entonces tu aparato, porque todos lo escuchamos perfectamente.
Ah,
Tienes
déjame
que
ver.
poner tus
Ya va.
auriculares. ¿Tú me escuchas a mí?
Perdón, ¿me escuchan bien?
Sí, te escuchamos.
Ahora
Patri,
sí,
Porque yo no las
sí.
escucho bien a ustedes. Cada vez que me están llamando me pasa lo mismo.
Ahora sí la escucho.
bien.
Gracias. A disfrutar de este exquisito poema con que nos regala Shuddha todos los miércoles y nos anima a seguir adelante.
Cierto, Olga. Sí, así es.
Sí.
Un abrazo enorme.
Igualmente, cariño, seguimos. ¿Qué será que no escucho?
Olga, es que no estamos hablando. No estamos hablando ahora porque es el descanso. Olga, Olga.
escuché, gracias, gracias. Es que apenas me conecté ahorita porque estaba fuera. Perfecto, gracias.
Bien.
let's resume now, huh? Jai Sachidanand. Jai Sachidanand. And before we proceed, does anybody want to say anything about these things here? My Dada has given a very beautiful example of a sick person, you see. Um, and because this is, sickness, health and sickness are the inevitable conditions of our relative life, you see. Nobody can avoid the difficulties that generally come as a person ages, you see.
Está bien, quiere comentar algo sobre esto porque está hablando, que nos está enseñando, es muy importante, ¿no? Y esto que habla de las enfermedades son inevitables en este mundo relativo y también son el resultado de la edad.
The misuse, today's session is on the misuse of Vyavasthit, because this knowledge of Vyavasthit is not for Patricia or Shuddha, it is actually for it is for the one who is awakened inside, you see. It is the knowledge of liberation, you see. Knowledge of Vyavasthit is the knowledge of liberation for the one who is liberated, you see, the one within us. There is one within each one of us who is absolutely liberated. Now we just need to remove our residual ignorance, you see, through this knowledge.
Perdón, Patri. Patri, se te escucha muy mal.
¿Ahora?
Ahora mejor.
Ok. Yeah. Bueno, el mal uso de Vyavasthit, del conocimiento de Vyavasthit, no es un conocimiento que es para Patricia o para Shuddha, es el conocimiento de la liberación, es para aquellos que están ya liberados. Y este conocimiento es para liberarnos de la ignorancia.
Yeah, the knowledge of Vyavasthit cannot be applied through the ego or the intellect. You see, it is not. It is the knowledge is Vyavasthit is absolutely beyond the intellect and the discharging ego. You see. Oh, again, when you look down, what happens is the sound gets muffled.
El conocimiento de Vyavasthit no es para el ego o para el intelecto. El conocimiento de Vyavasthit es más allá del ego y el intelecto. Y es lo que podemos ver es que es el ego en descarga.
She says that, if Dadashri also talks in this session about fear and anxiety. It's more than fear, it is the anxiety, you see. There is a difference. Fear is a result of an anxious prakriti, you see. Anxiety, which does not have a solution, will bring fear, you see.
También habla del miedo y de las ansiedades. Y el miedo proviene de un prakruti ansioso. Entonces, esa ansiedad lo conduce al miedo.
And activity, doing anything is really one of the ways in which a human being tries to forget his fear, you see. If he just sits, you see, in other words, if some bad news has come, the lady of the home will start washing all the clothes, or changing all the bed sheets, or rearranging the kitchen, etc. cabinets so that her chit is distracted, her mind doesn't go back to this anxious, anxiety generating thought, you see.
Las actividades son una forma también de distraer la mente y el intelecto de estos pensamientos. Entonces, por ejemplo, una mujer tiene, ¿qué forma tiene de evitar una mujer? Es un ejemplo, ¿no? La ansiedad y estos pensamientos se pone a limpiar la casa, cambiar las sábanas, lava la ropa, ¿no? Se ponen en hacer actividades para distraerse de esas ansiedades y de conectarse con esos pensamientos.
And the same applies to the gentleman. The man, he will go out into the yard and start chopping wood, or fiddle with his hardware. If he has got a little woodworking tool machinery, he will try to do fix. And just as long as you keep yourself occupied, you don't think about something that is bothering you. You see.
De la misma manera que las mujeres también salen y hacen cosas, por ejemplo, cortan madera o si tienen herramientas, arreglan cosas. De esa misma forma, tratan de distraer sus pensamientos, tratan de distraerse con actividades de los pensamientos que los molestan.
Yeah, but when you have to sit with your hands folded and you can't do anything in the miserable waiting rooms of the hospitals, you see, and for hours and hours, that's when the mind bothers you, you see. And at that time, if we have the knowledge, the awakened one has the knowledge, and if you do not have this beautiful, magnificent laksh of Vyavasthit, then you can bring in the Laksh and tell file one. It's what uh, Vyavasthit. There's nothing that is going to happen outside Vyavasthit, you see. But that's the only time you kind of calm down file one. But for most Mahatmas, it is not necessary. They rise higher in their upyog, applied awareness of the self, agnas, etc. Or they get engaged in charan vidhi, etc.
Bien. Eh, Hay situaciones, por ejemplo, como estar en el hospital, que solo puedes estar sentado afuera esperando con las manos cruzadas. Y entonces estos son los momentos donde no podés distraerte con ninguna actividad. Y bueno, nosotros con este conocimiento y con el Laksha de Vyavasthit, podemos decirle al One que nada sucederá fuera de Vyavasthit. Para los Mahatmas, nosotros tenemos las agnas, tenemos el charandidi, tenemos los upayok, tenemos un montón de conocimiento para entender estos momentos.
Yeah. So it's a very powerful example that Dadashri has given the entire scene of sickness and waiting for the results. You see, waiting for evidences to get engaged. And only when it happens, then only when it happens, only one of two results can happen. Either the man, no matter how sick he is, he will come out of the hospital, and be with his family, or he will leave into the other world, he'll leave for the next world, you see. Those are the only two results, you see. Of course, there are and there are the in between results, but there is this black and white life and life again, but people say death. No, the life and life again. There is nothing called death. Death is of the ego only. There is no death. Death is of the one who believes I'm dying. That's all. And then there is the next life again. He says, "Oh, I'm still alive now. I've got, enters the world like a little baby. Oh, aha."
Realmente maravilloso y poderoso ejemplo, ¿no? Y se trata de
It's getting muffled, my dear. Just a little bit more clearer, huh? Yeah.
dada nota este poderoso ejemplo, ¿no? Que del enfermo que dice de esperar las evidencias y comprometerse luego de los resultados. Y esta persona puede volver a casa o se puede ir al próximo mundo. Habrá resultados, pero los resultados no son en blanco y negro. El resultado puede ser la vida y la muerte, pero cuando decimos muerte, el que está hablando es el ego que cree que es la persona. Para
Yeah,
nosotros, los Mahatmas es vida, y después volvemos a la vida.
not only Mahatmas, everyone actually. There is life and life again only. Death is of the ego only. Yes, if people do not know that it is the ego that dies, it is the belief that dies, not the entire human being. The entire human being has got a lot of other stuff that continues to live inside him, you see.
Bueno, no, esto no es solamente para los Mahatmas, sino para todas las personas, que hay vida y después hay más vida. Lo que pasa que sí, no todos lo saben, y esto es resultado del ego que se cree que es la persona.
Yes, you're right that it is the Mahatmas who have this awareness that it is the death is of the belief only, the self is eternal, the self never dies. The one who says, "I am John" or "I am Mary," he doesn't die. His body dies, you see.
No solo los Mahatmas, sino todas las personas, ¿no? El ser nunca muere, lo que se termina es el cuerpo, y es la creencia del ego de pensar de que yo soy John, y el ser nunca muere.
Mm-hmm. 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 And of course, the other talks about malpractice claims, that, you go after the doctor, he's, and then the attorneys take over and the attorneys say, "It's the doctor who killed him," you say. Now, how can the doctor ever kill a human being? The doctor is only an evidence, you see. There is the nurse, there is the medicine, there is the body of the patient, you see. There is there is the karma of the patient, you see. But that's how life is. And so then by involving the attorneys, by involving the lawyers, now you've put your hand, you have entered into a very complicated life. You have made it so much more difficult for everyone, you see.
Dada nos muestra esto, ¿no? Como que nos dice que la gente dice, "Oh, el doctor lo mató", y en realidad eso es una evidencia, ¿no? Porque también el doctor no lo mató, las enfermeras no lo mataron, hay que ver el cuerpo, el karma de la persona, y todas las evidencias que sucedieron. Y así es nuestra vida, ¿no? Como se envuelve todo en complicaciones, y después vamos al abogado y vamos haciendo todo cada vez más difícil.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. Even in the days of Dada, they used to blame the doctor. You see, so it's in fact human beings have blamed the messenger. What meets the eye for forever. Everyone can only see through the eyes only. They cannot see that. They cannot see anything else, and that is why every human being is blind. Is it blindness Every human being is blind. He's ignorant, you see, yeah, and doesn't have the light, you see.
Es muy interesante ver cómo Dada nos muestra que las personas culpan al doctor, culpan al mensajero, porque en realidad es lo que pueden ver, lo pueden ver con sus ojos. Pero los seres humanos en realidad sufrimos de ceguera, y la ceguera es la ignorancia, es la falta de luz, de conocimiento.
Yeah. So Shuddhatma Bhagwan, if anybody wants to share or say something, now is the time, and if not, we go on to the next one.
Entonces, este es el momento. Si hay alguien que quiere compartir algo, decir algo, si no, vamos a proseguir.
So we go to the next one. It's
Vamos al
pretty,
siguiente.
yeah, it is. Dadashri's words are very clear in here, so there is nothing, and so we go to the next one.
Son muy claras las palabras de Dada, así que vamos a ir al siguiente.
When any knowledge is used appropriately, then that knowledge itself becomes science, and when it is misused, then that knowledge turns into ignorance, ugnan, you see. Aptasutra 2938.
Cuando cualquier conocimiento es usado apropiadamente, entonces ese conocimiento mismo se convierte en ciencia. Y cuando es mal usado, entonces ese conocimiento se convierte en ignorancia. Ugnan. Aptasutra 2938.
And now the word appropriate, the other calls it sad upyog, right use of knowledge, right use. You use, but we got appropriate, we leave it as appropriate, okay?
Yes.
Sad upyog, okay?
Dada habla de Satveyo, que es el correcto entendimiento del conocimiento.
Appropriate means it's not it's right use, or wrong use of knowledge, you see.
El mal el incorrecto uso del conocimiento.
And when Dada says that knowledge turns into Vignan, science, you see. Knowledge itself turns into science. So let us now read further. Questioner, when should I depend on Vyavasthit?
Pregunta, ¿cuándo debo depender de Vyavasthit?
And Dadashri says only after the pocket has been picked. Because who can directly depend on Vyavasthit? Only he who has complete Gnan. Others will cause slight interference. They will misuse the word Vyavasthit. Hence, after it is finished, when it is completed, say Vyavasthit to it. And when a thought of the future arises, say Vyavasthit again. Say Vyavasthit again. It's like not openly saying it, but it's an internal saying, Vyavasthit.
Shri dice, solo después de haber recogido el bolsillo, porque ¿quién puede depender directamente de Vyavasthit? Solo aquel que tiene el Gnan completo. Otros causarán una leve interferencia, harán un mal uso de la palabra Vyavasthit. Por lo tanto, después que se haya terminado, cuando se haya completado, di con minúsculas Vyavasthit a él. Y cuando surja un pensamiento del futuro, di Vyavasthit de nuevo.
Questioner, many times when conversing internally, I say, it is Vyavasthit, it is Vyavasthit. when I have not even started the work?
Pregunta. Muchas veces al conversar internamente digo, es Vyavasthit, cuando ni siquiera he comenzado el trabajo.
And Dadashri says, you cannot say that. It is dangerous. Only a Gnani Purush can do so if he chooses. Otherwise, everyone else does not have the complete Shuddha Upyog, pure applied awareness as the self. Complete Shuddha Upyog, pure applied awareness as the self. Yet, so it is dangerous. It is not as though you say Vyavasthit and start walking with your eyes closed. Do you? Do people actually walk along the roadside with their eyes closed? Why don't people walk after saying Vyavasthit? In such a situation, one walks with his eyes open. Moreover, why doesn't one say Vyavasthit and then say, just sit around, it is fine. If I get something to eat, fine, otherwise, no problem. It is Vyavasthit. He doesn't say that, does he? To misuse Vyavasthit is a mistake.
Luego se dice, no puedes decir eso, es peligroso. Solo un Gnani Purush puede hacerlo, si así lo decide. De lo contrario, todos los demás no tienen todavía el Shuddha Upayog, la completa conciencia aplicada como el ser. Por lo que es peligroso. No es como si dijeras, ya, Basti, empezaras a caminar con los ojos cerrados, ¿verdad? ¿La gente realmente camina por las carreteras con los ojos cerrados? ¿Por qué la gente no camina con los ojos cerrados después de decir ya, Basti? En tal situación, uno camina con los ojos abiertos. Además, ¿por qué no dice ya, Basti, y luego se dice, solo siéntate, está bien, si consigo algo para comer, de lo contrario no hay problema? Es ya, Basti. Uno no dice eso, ¿verdad? Usar mal Vyavasthit es un error.
Now, so this here, what we read, our dear Patricia just read for you all, as is connected to the previous Aptasutra. But this one here, in essence, is the conversion. Is how on one side there is Vignan, the science of the self, the science of the self. Vignan means the science of the S capital self, science of Amapura, the self, and on the other side is ignorance, sheer ignorance. You see, and this Aptasutra itself gives an amazing differentiation between Vignan and ugnan, ignorance. Vignan is Vignan, science, and the other side is ignorance, you see. Both new meanings, you see, both new meanings.
Y en este Aptasutra está la esencia de la conversión. Por un lado está Vignan, que es la ciencia del ser con mayúsculas, y del otro lado es la ignorancia. Y este Aptasutra hace la diferencia entre Vignan y Avignan.
Yeah, so really, there is three things. There is, in the process now, in this world, as we see it, there are three things that are happening. There is ugnan, ugnan, ignorance. Then there is gnan, knowledge, and then there is vignan, which is the science of the science that is the science in which there is no doer, the science of the self. So the science of the self, no doer. Three, agnan, ignorance. Gnan means now you wake up, you see, and then vignan, you see.
Hay tres cosas en este proceso en los procesos que suceden. Uno es el Aknan, que es la ignorancia. El segundo es el Gnan, que es el conocimiento. El tercero es el Vignan, que es la ciencia del ser, donde no hay hacedor.
In Vignan, there is only the blissful knower, like you and I, the blissful knower, and scientific circumstantial evidences coming together, arising. Scientific circumstantial evidences only, you see, associated with the five other eternal elements.
Yes. En Vignan, nosotros solamente somos los dichosos conocedores, como nosotros, ¿no? Y las evidencias científicas circunstanciales que vienen juntándose asociado a los otros 5 elementos eternos.
So when Dadashri says that when ignan, okay, interesting. Let me go back to what we just read at the Aptasutra. And I just want to go back to the exact words, because you see the sentence construction is very important here. So here, when Dadashri says when any knowledge is used appropriately, in fact, in the Gujarati says, કોઈ પણ જ્ઞાનનો સદ ઉપયોગ થાય તો. Now, it's not as if you take the knowledge. There is no one to make use of knowledge. Am I trying to, if you have knowledge, you cannot make use of that knowledge. In fact, that knowledge itself becomes the light. You cannot use light. In that light, the knowledge is working, right? I mean, you cannot. Yeah, we say use your light. In other words, now you have light. Now you are Amapura. So now, make use of that. That's right. Am I making clear? This is very subtle. કોઈ પણ જ્ઞાનનો તો સદુપયોગ થાય. The knowledge itself is the use. The knowledge itself is the application, is it not? Do you think you can kind of make this subtle differentiation? All right, yeah.
El conocimiento por sí mismo se convierte en luz. Entonces, es el uso, si el conocimiento en sí mismo se convierte en luz, es el uso de ese conocimiento.
Yeah, this is actually the final meaning of the use of the light. The light itself is is the knowledge, and in that light, there it is all happening. In this light, everything is happening. The difference is now I'm out of it. I means what? I means I have entered into the pure knowing space only.
Yes. La luz en sí misma es el conocimiento. Y en esa luz todo está sucediendo y yo no estoy. Y yo no estoy porque yo estoy conociendo. O soy el
Yeah,
conocedor.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You're in my light, my friends. That you and I are meant. You and I, the liberated self, have entered into the state where there is nothing left to be done. Nothing left to be done. You see, because anything that you do is going back into ignorance. You see.
Bien. Nosotros estamos destinados a ser los seres liberados. Nada quedó por ser hecho y cualquier cosa que llegues a ser es ignorancia.
Upayog means use and utility. You see, utilize, use and utility. You see, upayog means use. And then there is sad. Sad means right or correct or correct. Right, or I'm writing this down because I think that will help. Sad upyog, right, correct use. And then there is dur, 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 dur upyog means wrong use, okay. Now, so there is the right use and the wrong use. You see, the right use and the wrong use. The problem is that the light itself doesn't complain that you are using me wrongly. The light is light itself. And in that light, as our Gnani says, you can play poker and gamble, or in that light you can write a beautiful letter. You see?
Upayog es el uso y la utilidad. Sat es correcto y dur es el uso incorrecto. Y la luz nunca dice si las cosas están bien o están mal. Las cosas suceden en la luz. Lo que suceda, así estés apostando o estés haciendo lo que estés haciendo, eso está sucediendo en la luz.
Yes, you see? And increasingly, the more and more being in agnas, you see, agnas is the way, there is no other way. Through agnas, and through agnas, with more and more, you and I are becoming the light. You're through agnas, you and I are becoming the light, the Vignan. I am the light that is the self. Hu Vignan Swarup Chu. I am the light. I'm the absolute light of the self, or the light. You see what I'm saying?
Y cuanto más estés en las agnas, más nos volveremos la luz. Y la luz, ¿qué es el ser como oscura.
Yeah, we in our Charan Vidis, who Vignan Swarup Chu. You see, we all say that every day in our Charan Vidi, right? Who Vignan Swarup Chu. You see, means I am the light. You see, so that same knowledge with which we used to say, "Shut up! Why are you doing this? Wrong, right? Don't do this again." You see. That too is the light, but it is misuse of the light, you see. And then in the same light, when all of this is seen as it is, then that same knowledge becomes Vignan, you see. The same knowledge going in the wrong direction, hurtful direction, becomes ugnan, and the same knowledge in the right direction becomes vignan. It becomes vignan. Hmm?
Cuando las cosas es poder ver lo que es, ¿no? El mismo conocimiento. Por ejemplo, o sea, hay alguien que dice, no, esto está mal, no se hace así, no lo tienes que hacer. Eso te conduce a... Eso sucede en la luz también, pero te lleva a la falta de conocimiento, a la ignorancia. Y en cambio, cuando el mismo conocimiento, aplican la correcta aplicación del conocimiento, se vuelve Vignan.
Yes. The You see the beauty of it. So it comes back to the use of this word upyog, appropriate use, and inappropriate use. But you see, it is so the correct interpretation of this sutra, according to the Gujarati, and a better translation is when the knowledge, when the appropriate use of the knowledge happens, when appropriate use of the knowledge happens, okay, then that knowledge itself becomes science. This is important correction, okay? When appropriate use of knowledge
El conocimiento apropiado, la
happens,
apropiado
then
aplicación del conocimiento
that
se vuelve ciencia.
knowledge, gnan, you have to use the word knowledge, gnan becomes vignan. This is important, okay? I have just seen this correction, as I read it, so you see, I just shared it.
El conocimiento Gnan surge.
Yeah, so you see, when appropriate use of knowledge happens, then that knowledge becomes Vignan. And then knowledge, that knowledge becomes Vignan. So this is a very amazing understanding. We have left ego a million miles away. The ego and intellect are nowhere in here. This is now, we are rising at a level where there is only knowledge and where there is Gnan and there is Vignan. You see, you see what I'm saying? Did you understand what I'm saying? What Dada is saying?
El conocimiento, lo bello de esto es que el uso apropiado del conocimiento, cuando sucede eso, el conocimiento se vuelve Vignan. Y en este maravilloso entendimiento, el ego queda afuera. El conocimiento hay Gnan y Vignan.
Yeah, and the beauty that is implied here, and this is an advanced level Aptasutra 2938, which is very advanced level Aptasutra. The understanding of this Aptasutra becomes, well, there is more light in the understanding of this Aptasutra, you see. It's the light that lifts us all up, you see. It cannot, it just unfolds. It just unfolds. There, it's just unfolds. It's as if it is happening in our realization, in our self-realization. You see.
Entender ese Aptasutra es maravilloso y es la luz que nos lleva. En esta luz solamente se abre y nos lleva a poder tener este conocimiento, esta realización.
And and in the same way, Dadashri saying that same Gnan, this knowledge which every human being has, you see, that same knowledge can go the other way, and the knowledge misuse also is happening. There is no fault of anyone in it. When a person misbehaves, when a person is hurtful, it is because that is how it is.
Este conocimiento de que todos los seres tienen pueden ir también por otro camino, ¿no? En ese mal uso de la aplicación del conocimiento, no se lo puede culpar, porque esa es la forma en que tiene que ser.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah, Laura has been translating these words. Yeah, I see. So it's really very beautiful. You see, in other words, can you imagine from which level Dada is sharing us this vision? And the explanation that follows in this sutra, it does not do justice to this sutra. In other words, the satsang that follows in here does not open it up. You understand?
Imaginen el nivel de conocimiento que Dada nos está dando con estos Aptasutras, porque de hecho es como que es un satsang en sí mismo, este Aptasutra.
Yeah, the Mahatma who put together this satsang, you see, this explanation. He picked up stuff from Dada's satsang and he's trying to connect it with this Aptasutra, and there is no connection really, you know. You see?
El Mahatma que estuvo juntando toda esta información para ponerlo acá en la Aptasutra para el satsang, como que no tiene conexión con todo esto.
Because he takes very lower meanings of right use and wrong use of Vyavasthit. But you know, Dada is not talking about Vyavasthit at all in this sutra at all. He is not talking about Vyavasthit in this sutra, is he? There is no word Vyavasthit here, you see.
Fíjense, ¿no? Que, por ejemplo, la persona que estuvo haciendo esta traducción que le toma como el nivel más bajo del significado de Vyavasthit, y acá en ningún momento nada está hablando de Vyavasthit.
And that, my friends, is Vyavasthit. Okay, that is how. And that is how it is. So our time is up. Our highest namaskars from Laura and Marcella and Patricia and Shuddha to all of you. To all of you, Paramatma. Jai Sachidananda, Gabi and Cecilia and Arman and Gonzalo.
Gracias, Sudha.
Yeah. Jai Sachidananda.
Thank you very much.
Jai Sachidananda.
Thank you.
Patri, decile a Sudha
Gracias.
que es el host a Laura, por favor.
Gracias.
Can you give the host to Laura?
Okay, let me convert because I think, okay, let me make my Laura the host, okay? Now let me just go to participants and Laura, where's Laura? Laura, and make host, all right, wonderful, and change host, and now stop